So here we are in Happy Valley at our project where we're doing some cabinet install today. And I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to our superintendent, James, about custom cabinetry and the difference between custom cabinets that we've got here and what you might find with pre-manufactured cabinets that you could buy from a Home Depot or an IKEA or something like that. Let's go. Hey, James.
How's it going?
Good, how are you, man?
Doing well.
It's good to see you. The first thing we want to talk about here is the design, because there's differences in what you can do design-wise when you're doing custom cabinets and pre-manufactured cabinets. What are some of the differences that you've noticed in the projects you've worked on?
So, especially with the pre-manufactured, they all come in what they call cookie cutter sizes. So you're not getting anything that's a custom dimension to fit your space truly. It's all just going to be generic 24-inch, 36-inch, 30-inch, where with our custom cabinets here, they're actually able to maximize their space and really tailor fit it to the space that they have.
And so some of the problems, especially on the cheaper pre-manufactured cabinets, are like with IKEA, they don't really have hardly any crown options or filler options. So taking the cabinetry to the ceiling and matching that up so it looks good is difficult to do. And you'll end up with a lot of gaps between the cabinets. So for instance, right here behind James, we have an intentional filler here because we've got a corner accessory that needs space to come out. That's fine. We have a little bit of wasted space here that we're okay with because we're really maximizing space back there. What you end up with some pre-manufactured cabinets is sometimes you'll get these fillers all kinds of places where you don't want them. And so you end up wasting a lot of space as you design a kitchen, especially corners or end of runs, and you end up wasting space in that design.
Well, it also goes into, this is very intentionally thought out. We have a 3-inch filler here. We're going to have 1.5 inch pulls. So as soon as you open any of these, your pulls are actually not going to hit each other, which allows your cabinets to actually function so you can use all of the space that you have. So it really maximizes your space so you can use your doors.
The other thing is, obviously, it's in the name, custom cabinets. You're going to have custom colors, custom finishes. Pre-manufactured, you're going to have a limited number. And then something that sometimes people don't think about is even on the highest end pre-manufactured cabinets, where they can do some custom things, the cool thing that you've seen that you want to do in your kitchen, whether it is maybe Bloom's new space step that's a toe kick drawer that has a step that comes out too, or it might be a particular Lazy Susan, like my personal favorite, that's the Revo soft close Lazy Susan. Or if you see something that you really want to incorporate in your kitchen, even if the pre-manufactured cabinet company can do it, it's a lot bigger effort than if you're working with a local custom shop. So James, let's talk a little bit about the differences of material that you've seen in different types of pre-manufactured cabinets and different types of custom cabinets, because I guess they're not all really the same.
They're definitely not the same. You have some manufacturers that are using MDF, which is medium density fiberboard, which isn't great for wet spaces, or especially in a mudroom where you're experiencing humidity and all that heat is going to either expand and pillow out those. Yeah. And they usually use a wrap on top of it, so those wraps actually fall off. It's not an actual good paint job like we have here, where it's fully painted. We have the plywood, which is very stable at the end of the day, which is going to hold up great over time and really just make sure that this kitchen is here to last. If they ever want to sell their house, they'll still be using the same kitchen because of the quality that's in here.
Yeah, totally. Let's camp on MDF and plywood real quick there, because that's one of the things that in my conversations with carpenters, the conversation's really different than with cabinet salespeople. Yep. Because cabinet salespeople, half the time, they want to save a couple bucks and switch you down to MDF or furniture board. And no carpenter I've ever talked to thinks that's a good idea. So why is that? And what happens with MDF when you get it out there?
I am definitely the advocate. Don't do MDF. It's a little bit more money to get wood, and it is by far better, not only for the installer, but also for the longevity of the product. We actually have MDF moldings at this house, and we've seen from the existing moldings from just being next to a window, it has started to expand. The paint looks bad, everything's cracking, and just doesn't hold up great, where the wood, you're gonna see a much better finish, And at the end of the day, it's going to hold up over time as well.
So tell me more about some of the issues with a particle board that they'll use.
So with particle board, a lot of the issues that we'll see is actually on the function of either the doors or the drawers. As you're pulling on them, the grain structure where you have it in plywood, the screws are able to hold better over time, where with an MDF, especially if you're pulling from a corner, the screw will just rip right out. There's nothing really substantial for it to grab into. And so, especially with little kids in my household, every time that they lean on a door, it's popping off with the screws. You're not able to actually use your cabinets the way that you should and the way that they're intended.
So when, a screw pops out or it blows out like that, what's it look like to repair? Is that pretty easy or is that a pain?
Not at all. You definitely want to replace it with something that's better, which in this case would definitely be wood. Once that's damaged, there's no way to rehab it that it will actually hold the test of time. It's far easier to just get a new door made, replace the door, and go with real wood at that point, because it will actually stand up over time. Otherwise, you're just going to keep fixing it over and over and over again. And you're putting a Band-Aid over something that really needs to be substantially fixed.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now let's talk about the hardware, because that's one of the other things that I've seen significant differences when you have like an IKEA level hardware and then maybe a pre-manufactured, say, something like Medallion or Yorktown, especially on their lower ends, they'll use Chinese kind of knockoffs of Bloom or some of the others. Yep. And then a higher end Bloom hardware. Like, talk to me about the differences you've seen.
So a lot of the differences, let's just say that you go to the big box store and you're buying drawer glides for a cabinet. I've used them in the past, and the way that my kids slam everything shut, they start to have problems over time because the tracks are not as stable. They don't have as many stabilizers in it. And you can get the soft close, but when it comes to Blum, they really take it that extra level, not only for the installer and the ease of making sure that everything is right, but it also just stands up over time with abuse.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the things that you were saying is, even though with the cheaper hardware, you can get the full extension soft close, yep, but over time, that soft close is not going to work as well.
A lot of them use springs in that case, and those springs, the more you use it, the looser it will get. So sometimes they will keep functioning, but they'll be either extremely fast and not be a soft close, and sometimes they'll just completely give out, so you'll have to replace it eventually.
If we look at one of these, this has several layers of adjustability. And why would you want these to be adjustable?
So not everything is always square. We like to think that boxes are perfectly square when we get them. They're not. So all these adjustments help to make sure that our reveals in between stay consistent, which also helps with any rubbing for the long term of the product. But also it helps to make everything be able to function correctly, because if you don't have a level drawer or a level cabinet, you can actually level the box off so that if you set anything, a marble in there, you're not going to have it rolling back and forth.
And then if I remember right, even with these here, there's an adjustability there. So if you have a really heavy drawer, yep, or a really big drawer, those are adjustable as well.
They are, and they really think of the next step forward, where we're just using these on small drawers, but if we were to go to a bigger drawer like we have over here, the more weight that you're going to put in, they're all rated for it. So you only need the 2 drawer glides, no matter if it's small or large.
Here's an example of how all custom cabinets are not made the same. And this is the existing laundry cabinets. And often people will put in the laundry room the least expensive cabinets. But these are good examples, because there's a couple failure points you'll see on both pre-manufactured cabinets or custom cabinets. And there's a couple things to point out. One is the edge banding is failing here. So this will happen is that the glue that actually holds the edge banding on to the doors, or there's edge banding on the edge of the box. Sometimes that'll fail. Now, these are a laminate product that then this edge banding gets applied. That's why there's edge banding on the door. So that's one thing to point out. The other thing to point out is when you're dealing with pre-manufactured cabinets especially, or laminates in general, much, much harder to add other components and match things. For instance, you'll see here, we have this painted crown that was added to these laminate doors, and it's distinctly a different color. And then yet we have another different color that's this edge banding. And it's because, we have all these whites, And instead of like painting it all, so it can be one color, we're adding these pre-finished components together. So if you see people that will do an IKEA kitchen and then add in some crown molding and other trim and stuff, it's fine, you can do that, but it's really a different level of product in the end result generally, because the color is going to be off. It's not going to be quite right, and the finish is going to be different, and it's just going to be different. And here, as some of these products age differently over time, that color becomes pretty obvious. So one of the things I've noticed is there's really a big mindset difference between a major large manufacturer such as IKEA or somebody that sells in a box store and that local custom shop. And the mindset difference is a large manufacturer is making thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of cabinet boxes and parts. And so if you can save cents or save a couple dollars on a drawer guide, they're going to do it, because then they can get their price point a little bit down and they can increase their profits, and that's the way they do that. Whereas a local custom shop, it's more of an end-to-end solution. They normally do the install and they'll do a warranty service afterwards. If they can make a decision to have a higher quality drawer guide or a higher quality hinge or higher quality plywood that'll eliminate them having to do warranty calls or make their install easier, they're going to make that decision, which gets the same result. They're going to actually end up, making a higher profit and providing a better product if they do that, because they're that end-to-end solution. So James, you're actually in the process of installing these cabinets here. And these are local custom cabinets. Let's talk about them and the differences between installing local custom made cabinets and pre-manufactured cabinets.
So being in the process here, one of the easiest things they showed up and they were already assembled. When you get it from IKEA, it comes flat packed, and then you got to figure out what part goes to what part, which is which, and where it goes. Where these, we all have it labeled to the point where I know exactly where C11 is going to go on the wall. It's already made, and the even better part of it is it's a very simple install. We have leveling feet in the front. As long as we set the ledger level in the back to the desired height that we want, it's almost a seamless install, or is it as seamless as you can get.
And this is a really cool feature of these cabinets, which are like, talk to me about what you don't, or what you do with other cabinets. See here, we've got this cleat right here you just mentioned, and then these leveler legs, and these ones, do you just grab with your hand and twist up, or is there a wrench?
Yeah, so the little puck that's at the bottom, you can spin it left or right, depending if you need to go up or down. It's very easy. Generally, because of the ledger that we have in the back, you're able to actually rock the cabinet without ruining any finishes, and you can spin those exactly to where you want. So you can have an absolutely dialed in level countertop that's going on top of your nice base here, because we all know that the prep work that you put in will give you a better finish result at the end of the day. Makes it very easy.
And so talk to me about, if for somebody that doesn't know anything about cabinets, if you don't have this system, what's that process look like?
Oh, it's a major pain. Usually they come with an assembled plywood box on the bottom of it that then, instead of using very easy leveling feet, you're now having to put shims underneath a plywood box to get to the desired height that you want, to make sure that your countertop guys don't hate you because nothing's in plane. It's an extreme pain. I mean, if we take our straight edge and we go across, there's no high points in any of this, where when the countertop guys come, they're absolutely going to love that, because now they're not going to have to put shims, put all the silicone underneath it, their adhesive, in order to make up for the differences in those cabinets, where with the ledger board, you have a nice solid place to start, which then gets you to a nice flat result at the end. And we just go a little crazy, but we make sure that actually between where our stove is going to be, that also stays the same plane, so that those little details of how far the stove is up is going to be equal on both sides.
That's a really good point, because I've totally seen instances where you've had a really big buildup of some shims and stuff, and then a ton of silicone to get the countertop level, because not everything below that's level, and this makes it really easy to do that.
It does, and it actually affects your countertop at the end of the day, where if you have a hot pot, it could potentially crack that stone because it doesn't have enough support underneath it, where that air underneath can cause it to crack. So we really want to make sure that we're not just thinking about today when we're installing, but also for what this is going to be used for in the future.